We've been riding bikes for a long time. What are some of the worst and or funniest crashes and injuries we have sustained? Most of these are going to come from you and videos that you've made over the years.
Thankfully, I've been making videos so long, I've got footage of most of these. So you can put that in, Emily.
So let's go with the first one, which many people, or a good proportion of the audience, will already know about. I have very good knowledge of, because I had to wipe your ass a few times. You broke both of your arms racing Red Hook Crit in New York.
Correct.
Tell us about it.
We didn't get that close, Jimmy. I don't think you... did I even know you then?
Yes, of course you did.
Oh, yeah, of course I did, yeah.
I remember doing a photo shoot with you and you were in 2 casts. And then we posted that and they were like, this is not a very good message for cycling. It makes it look extremely dangerous.
It is dangerous. He broke both his arms.
Well, this is a specific type of cycling. Many years ago, I kind of came back to racing after a bit of a hiatus and did some fixed gear crits, which is crit races, circuit races that are quite technical on track bikes with no brakes. So you can only slow down by resisting the pedals. Actually, I did a couple in Germany and they were great. And they were actually quite safe because no one has brakes. So no one slows down that quickly. So you just flow and it was great. And the standard riding was high. Did all right in those. I think I got like top 10 in one of the A races. I was like, sweet, I'm making a comeback. And then the very next race, I was like, this is confidence building, fitness building. Next race I did was Red Hook, Brooklyn. And in the qualifiers, I had never done a Red Hook before, so you get put at the back of the field. So I'm like 50th place, and you have to get the top 20 or something like that to get through to the final, maybe top 10. And I rode up right up to 20th wheel, like a few laps in, and then 2 guys just I don't even know how they crashed. They just crashed. Probably pedal strike or something, because obviously you're pedaling around the corners. 2 guys crashed right in front of me, and then I had to go in between them and straight into the barriers, where I hit my head very hard, and I like had concussion.
All right.
How you doing, Ray?
The qualification could have gone better. Hit my elbow pretty hard, hit my leg pretty hard. The elbow's probably the worst bit.
I remember hitting my head and feeling really sick, which I've done before as well in bike races. So you kind of stand up and you're like, it's a drunk feeling. And then I was like, oh, my arm hurts and my wrist hurts. And turns out I broke both of my arms. I didn't want to admit it. So after that, I sort of walked around with my mate Owen, who held the camera, and interviewed Roman Bardet while wearing a sling.
Yeah, you gonna crash? I did crash, yeah. Really hurts. I think I've broken my arm.
No, really?
Yeah, and they want to send me to hospital.
I'd say elbow not. Roman, which heat are you racing in?
No.
Not racing?
Why not?
No, tomorrow.
Not enough gears.
Back to business.
Because I didn't want to get in the ambulance because I was in America and didn't have any health insurance.
Fair enough.
So I thought, I'd just do some work. Roman Bardet is a really nice guy. Yeah.
Was your friend holding the camera because you physically couldn't hold the camera?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I couldn't pick things up. So I broke my scaphoid in one arm, which is like, still hurts. It never heals properly because there's not very much blood flow through it. And it's quite a common injury with cycling because it's when you put your hands out. And then my elbow, some sort of bone that begins with O, and I've got like lots of
which later had a load of metal
junction in there. Metal got put in and then never got taken out, and it should have got taken out. So now my body's slowly rejecting it. My arm doesn't straighten, and my body slowly like more and more metal is poking out.
Oh,
so
great.
maybe one day I'll be able to just take it and put it on a mantelpiece.
Do you set off airport security things?
No, because it's not
Is that just
metallic. Metallic? Magnetic. It's not that kind of metal.
Okay.
Can I just say the closing point of this is you did a bikepacking trip, maybe the American trip with Lawrence.
2 weeks later,
James.
I got the cast because I had a massive cast on my arm, and I was like, I don't want this for the trip, and the doctors wouldn't take it off. So you soak it. Okay, don't do this. You soak it in the bath or a sink and keep it wet, and then it cuts off really easily. So I took it off early.
So you literally removed your casts to do a bikepacking trip.
Yes. Think of the tan lines. So I actually switched it for the thing that someone at the race gave me, which was a wrist brace. So it was still getting some support. That wasn't completely silly. And then later on in that trip, is this on the list? The Lawrence crash.
Yes.
Later on during that trip, which was cycling through from San Diego up to LA, through Death Valley, through Yosemite Valley, San Francisco, to the top of up near Portland. It was a really long trip. And I was wearing this wrist brace. My other arm was kind of healed. I was a bit wonky on the bike the whole time. And I was with my friend Lawrence and James. Lawrence, carpenter, a lot of you will know from videos that we posted on this channel, and he has his own YouTube, was cycling in a circle while we were waiting for a ferry in San Francisco. Missed the ferry, and we just like watched him like,
How did he miss it?
see ya. Well, he's cycling in a circle. It's the kind of thing Lawrence does. He'd gone to buy some beers, and then he didn't, and then he just cycled in a circle instead of delivering them to us.
Do you want to explain to the viewers what's just happened?
We got on the ferry thinking it wasn't due to leave until 7:35.
Which the leaflet said.
Lawrence was, to be fair, dicking about. And Francis and I got on the ferry, and assuming it wasn't going to leave for another 20 minutes, and then the ferry just fucked off.
So Lawrence is over there
So
somewhere.
I could see Lawrence in the background circling around in a marketplace. Fuck's sake.
So he panicked, jumped in an Uber as we got the ferry across to Oakland, which is where we were staying. And then we finally met him on the other end. Me and James had a couple of beers on the ferry. We were like, "Wait!" Lawrence came around the corner and then stacked it because his camera strap he was filming us, stacked it, crashed and broke his wrist. But I had a wrist brace and it was the right arm, the left arm.
Uh-oh.
What's that on your hand?
This, actually, thank God, Francis, is your amazing wrist shield, or whatever you call it. I don't think it's broken, but we had a bit of a whoopsie-woo-dah, as you would have seen.
So I had the perfect solution for him.
Well, that was very convenient.
It was.
Well, not for Lawrence, but that you had the brace.
Yeah, he was in a lot of pain for the next couple of days and then eventually he gave up. So we never got him to the end of that trip.
Oh, yeah, because you still had more riding to do, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. But one day, we'll get him to the end.
Well, I guess whilst we're on the subject of Lawrence, there is a very
This is my
infamous
favourite.
clip of Lawrence crashing. And it is honestly, like, this is one of the... It is genuinely one of the most enjoyable moments I've ever seen where a bike is involved.
So this was a Red Bull time lapse, wasn't it? Which was a 24-hour relay race.
25-hour
relay race because it was on the day when the clocks go
solstice
back.
or whatever it is.
The longest one-day race in the world.
Wait, who was in the team? You, Lawrence,
Ken Buckley
Ken Buckley,
and Alex Dowsett.
Who's a ex-pro.
He was pro at the time.
He was pro at the time.
Riding for Katusha.
Yeah, and
Alpecin.
they were doing their changeover. Lawrence was getting on, and Alex give him a little push off.
But you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to get on your bike until you run, switch the wristband as a relay, and then you go to the end. You run your bike to the end and jump on. And Lawrence only remembered that halfway through getting on his bike, and Alex was already pushing him. So he was
pushed him
while getting off his bike. He just stacked it.
Wristband to Lawrence.
Cheers, bro. Thank you.
Good luck, Matt. Oh God, this is bad stuff.
You got that?
We laughed for a very long time. And then I laugh every year on Facebook when it gets... Look, check out this memory.
And Lawrence was unhurt by that, wasn't he?
Oh, he was fine. Yeah. And we came second.
Great.
That's why we came second. We would have won otherwise. There was a team of juniors who beat us. But it was pesky juniors. We would have made it if it wasn't for those pesky kids.
Jimmy, do you have any stories?
I have a collection of crashes, but I guess only one. I have one that was like significantly more significant than the other less significant ones.
Okay.
I don't know. It's another not very good message for cycling, but perhaps people can learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
I finished work on Friday. The London Marathon was on the Sunday, which I was doing. I had a very cheap single-speed commuter bike I used to get around London on. Finished work, went for a couple of beers, probably one or two more than I should have had whilst I was riding and doing a race on Sunday. You have to pick up your number for London Marathon early. So I rode over to the Excel Centre, picked up my number, signed on, did all of that stuff, was riding home. And there was this little hill where I used to live in Waltham. No, not Walthamstow. Where did we used to live?
Leytonstone.
Leytonstone, that's the one. This little hill to get over this railway track. And I decided to get out the saddle. And to be fair, this accident wasn't caused by alcohol. And if you've ridden a single speed or a track bike, the chain tension is managed by how tight the rear wheel is in the frame. It being a very cheap bike, mostly made of cheese, Francis would refer to it as a bike-shaped object rather than a bike. The wheel slipped, the chain came off, and whilst I was out of the saddle, I basically face planted and I woke up with lots of people around me, an ambulance car thing, and some woman shouting, I didn't touch him on the car that stopped behind where I had crashed. I remembered she didn't clip my wheel. The chain came off, and there's nothing you can do. I basically just face planted. The guy in the ambulance he was like, oh, do you want me to give you a lift home? I'm like, can I put the bike in? He was like, no. I was like, oh, I'll walk then. And I hobbled the remaining mile and a half with blood coming down my leg, blood on my arm, hobbled home. And then I couldn't walk for about 3 weeks afterwards.
And I opened the door to him and I was like, this is a very extravagant way of getting out of doing London Marathon. My goodness.
Love cycling. I hate crashes like that. Chain snapping is the other one, isn't it? You just can't, it's not your fault really, and it just
I
really
legitimately for months, maybe even years afterwards, had like out of the saddle paranoia.
Yeah.
Just doing because I was doing triathlon and stuff at the time, so I did a lot of training, a lot of riding. I used to do every single climb and every sprint in the saddle for about 18 months. Just so much paranoia about it.
Isn't it mad, the psychology of professional athletes who can crash really hard and get back on and still go? Like it was a big reason why I could not carry on racing.
Yeah.
Admittedly, the crashes that I saw were fatal, but even the smaller ones affect you. And people like Pidcock will crash hard and then he'll be back in a sprint. It's like there's a bit missing in your brain that you just don't have this PTSD from crashing. And a lot of pro riders can do it, or they have real good therapists.
Yeah,
they get mentally strong. It's funny how it affects you. I got one more, which is a medical observation as well.
Okay.
And probably a regret and message for younger riders. I was doing a local elite race years ago, and big bunch, very, very fast. I was just in the peloton. Mitch from my team, Mitch Webber, don't know if he's still racing, and a couple of other teammates were all in one place in the bunch. He went down. It was just like a touch of wheels. I went down behind him, and then it was day one of a stage race as well, 3 days. And I crashed and got so much road rash all over my leg that it healed up over a couple of weeks. Firstly, finish the stage race, and you just like wrap cling film around it and hope for the best. So 3 days later, you then like actually assess the damage, and it took so many layers of skin off my leg that now my left leg doesn't grow leg hair at all, and on the right side, it's very hairy. It's not compensating. It was hairy anyway. And looking back and having spoken to a few medical people since then, I probably should have had gone to hospital and maybe a skin graft or something like that, because it was so deep and it took a long time to recover from. So
gross.
Also, for the majority of road rash, a lot of bike racers, me included, will go, let it dry out. It's usually the easiest. Yes, it will probably scar more and it will be more visible, but it's usually the easiest solution. For something like that, instead of letting it dry out, I should have just kept it under wraps. Like you put like cream on it and some cling film and you keep it moist, and I should have done that, or some sort of proper dressing.
Or just seek medical attention.
Yeah, maybe a professional. Yeah.
There seems to be a theme with you and not seeking medical attention.
It's fine now. My wife is a doctor, so I see a medical professional all the time.
I see.
Yeah.
Did I tell you about the time I thought I was going to get airlifted?
Really? Where were you?
So, it's only partially relevant to this because it isn't actually cycling.
Oh, during your ultramarathon?
Yeah, it was the Brecon Ultra Marathon, which I didn't finish. And to this day, I'm like, I need to go back and do that one day. So it's basically 2 loops of the Brecon Marathon, 20-something miles per loop, and there was 2 of them. I did the first lap in about 4 hours, and I was like, I'm flying here. I'm doing great. And then I managed to push too hard and in true running fashion got a knee injury. At which point I was just like, I'm going to just keep going, when I should have just stopped when I was at the bottom of a mountain.
Future Jimmy would have said, just give up, just have a sit down.
And I should have.
Have a sleep.
These are the sort of reasons why I know that now. That is what I should have done. But instead what I did was the next 6 or 7 miles took the same amount of time as the first 22.
Ooh.
And at this point, I was now on top of a hillside with no phone signal in the middle of nowhere. Literally, there was no people anywhere. There wasn't even people coming past me. And eventually, someone ran past me or caught up with where I was. And the weather had descended. I was in like full winter kit because the event happens in winter as well, of course. And I was just like... Even at that point, I hadn't realized that I was in trouble, and they carried on running. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just, my knees giving me a bit of jip." And then I got to the point where I was just like, "How far is the next checkpoint?" And I couldn't. You start having to go downhill, and that was when I just couldn't walk on it properly at all. And there was just this moment where I was just like, I really don't want to have to call this in somehow or get someone to like send help because the only option is going to be getting airlifted. I was like, I didn't want to be that person. So I basically hopped about another 2 miles to the next checkpoint, and then they brought a 4x4 up a hill to collect me at a point that was able to do that.
They cover you in the silver thing like a baked potato.
There's compulsory kit. You have to have one anyway. But I think I probably refused it because I was trying to be tough, Jimmy.
Double hard.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't get airlifted, but there was a point there I thought I might have to. And one day I'll go back and do that. Do you fancy doing an ultramarathon?
I mean, you've made it sound so appealing.
I don't know what my stance is on ultra, but as a personal thing. Do I want to do any more? Probably not.
Any more?
I mean, ultra. I've done like
Ultra
500k
stuff.
rides and things like that, and I just takes chunks out of you, doesn't it? It's not good for you. As I get older, the more I'm focused on doing a good amount of exercise that keeps me healthy, a varied amount of exercise, not just 25 hours of bike every week, which is great if you want to be a fast cyclist, but not the best if you want to be a healthy person.
Everything in moderation, that's what they say.
Yeah,
isn't
exactly.
It? My mum, I've mentioned this before, my mum's a chiropodist podiatrist, looked at Jimmy's feet and was like, honestly, don't run again.
At all.
You have the feet of a 60-year-old and you were 35 at the time.
No, I was way younger than that. I would have been about 30. That's best part of a decade ago. She gave me that advice.
Yeah, she was like, some people just aren't meant to just run that far.
Well, she said, don't run long, but if you want to run short and fast, you can. I was like, how short? She's like, I don't know, like 400 meters.
Really short. Nice.
Anything
Else to add from anyone? Have you had any crashes, Emily?
You can't say it, can you? No, touch wood, touch wood, touch wood, touch wood. No.
Okay.
Don't ask me. Don't look at me. Don't think about it. Just, I don't want any of that bad juju. Send it away. Not for me. I feel like we should end on a note of, if you do have a crash, don't do what Francis does. Do seek medical attention.
And being Mr. Demotivator, if you can, don't have a crash in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what, actually?
Be sensible, guys.
I feel like this leads into, I didn't write it down on our sheet, but we did get an email in from someone this week who wears a mouth guard when they cycle, and they were wanting to know what our opinion was of riding with a mouth guard in.
I think it's very sensible, because I'm not even joking. When I descend, I used to do boxing and Muay Thai many years ago, and one of the things that you learn with teeth and not getting knocked out is you close your mouth, you clench your teeth so that your jaw isn't loose.
Yeah.
There are times where I descend, I'm like, if I do crash, if I've got my jaw bitten, like, tight, then I'm less likely to knock my teeth out. So I'm all for it.
If I think about the times I have crashed while biking normally, it is 0. It's always been brakeless race, doing some stupid mountain biking,
Racing.
Yeah. And most people are not doing that. So it's a very safe sport and activity and hobby, whichever one you would like to pick.
Speak for yourself, though, because a lot of the people that I know that ride with clubs locally, they are weekend bike races around the roads of Northumberland.
Yeah, most people are not. Most people are riding on their own through town, nice and leisurely.
Should we do fluff up of the week?
Yes, and we have a wonderful one thanks to Francis. Forgot his clothes again, Cade.
That audience member again. Yeah. I forgot my clothes today, so I'm dressed as Jimmy. Which luckily we dress exactly the same and at the same size. So
And what did you find in the pocket?
I've got
Francis?
bib shorts on. I'm not wearing your pants. Look, I've got bib shorts
There
on.
was
underneath.
pants in the pocket for you.
This is chamois time of this ride is really long.
You could. There is always a pair of pants in the pocket of those trousers for when I ride in.
Well, I know we're level 5 friends, but I bib shorts were comfy. I'll just stay in them.
Fine.
It's cushioning for the seat.
Well, you don't wear pants under your bib shorts.
Dun dun dun.